I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We met in college, hit it off pretty fast, and everyone thought we were the perfect couple. I thought so too, until the last couple of months. Things started feeling off, small things that I ignored at first. She'd be more distant, dismissive when I'd try to talk about our plans or future. She'd brush off my compliments or tell me I was overthinking. Still, I figured she was just stressed at work, busy with her new job, and that things would settle down. But then last week everything changed. It was our anniversary, and I had planned a surprise dinner at this fancy restaurant downtown. I wanted to make it special, wanted to remind her why I loved her. I even bought her a little necklace she'd been eyeing for months. She seemed excited at first, dressing up in this tight dress and flirting a little. I was happy, genuinely feeling like I was doing something right for once. We arrived, and everything was perfect until I saw her phone. I was waiting for the check, and I noticed her phone buzz. I didn't think much of it, just a notification, probably a message or social media. But what caught my eye was the name, Jake. I froze. Jake was her coworker, a guy she always dismissed when I confronted her about him. I saw her quickly swipe her phone screen, hiding something. My stomach dropped. I couldn't help myself. I looked over her shoulder when she put her phone down. There it was. A text message from him. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Dinner's just the start." My heart stopped. I stared at her, my mind racing. She caught me looking, her eyes narrowing. She gave me that fake, bitchy smile, like I was a fool for even doubting her. Then she said, "You're reading too much into it, Mike. It's just work stuff. Jake's just a friend." But I knew better. That wasn't just work talk. I could see the way she'd been acting, the little lies she'd been telling lately. The way she'd suddenly become more touchy with him at work. The way she'd always have her phone hidden when I was around. Something was going on. And I knew it. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed everything I saw, every little sign I'd ignored. The subtle changes in her attitude, the late nights she'd claim were work, the secretive texts, it all clicked into place. My wife Lisa had been cheating on me probably for months, and not just with any guy, Jake. The guy she always dismissed as a work friend, but who, as I now realized, was more than that. That's where I am now. Hurt, angry, betrayed. I don't even know how to process it. I want to confront her, get answers, but part of me just wants to break everything and walk away. I don't know how this happened, how I missed all the signs, how I ever trusted her. I keep telling myself I should have seen it coming, but it still hits like a ton of bricks every time I think about that night. This is the kind of betrayal that changes everything. I never thought I'd be that guy who catches his wife cheating, but here I am, sitting in this mess and trying to figure out what's next. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a train. My mind kept replaying what I saw, the messages, her reaction, the way she lied so easily when I confronted her. I stayed in bed longer than I should have, just staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. Part of me wanted to break down, scream, cry, but I held it all in. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart just yet. I knew I had to face her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I got up, got dressed, and made my way to the kitchen where Lisa was already making coffee. She looked up, saw me standing there, and immediately put on that fake, bitchy look again, like she was trying to act like everything was normal. I could feel my blood boiling. This bitch was so good at lying, so good at pretending nothing had changed. "Morning," she said, giving me a tight smile. "Sleep okay?" I stared at her, feeling the rage bubble up. I wanted to lash out, scream at her, ask her how long she'd been cheating, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Instead, I just said, "We need to talk." She kept her cool, but I could see the flicker of nervousness behind her eyes. "About what?" she asked, pretending to be clueless. "You know exactly what," I shot back. "The messages, the way you acted last night. Who is he, Lisa? How long have you been sleeping with Jake?" Her face hardened and she scoffed. "Oh, come on, you're overreacting. It's nothing, just some stupid flirtation. It's not a big deal." I clenched my fists. "Not a big deal. You've been lying to me for months. You've been sneaking around, hiding your phone, acting like I'm crazy. And all because of some stupid flirtation. That's your excuse." She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "Look, Mike, you're making a big deal out of nothing. I told you Jake's just a friend. I don't even see him that way. You're paranoid. Maybe you're the one who's been cheating in your head." That was the moment I lost it. The words hit me like a slap. I looked at her, realizing she was just spinning her lies, trying to minimize what she did. I felt the icy grip of betrayal tightening around my chest. I knew then that this wasn't just about a flirtation or some innocent mistake. It was about trust or the complete lack of it. I told her I needed space and I left the house. I walked out the door feeling numb, every step heavier than the last. I didn't take my phone. I didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't want to hear her lies anymore. I just needed to be alone with my thoughts to figure out how I got here, how I let it happen, and what I was going to do next. That night I didn't sleep again. Instead, I stayed up thinking about everything, about how I had loved her, trusted her, built a life with her. And now it just felt like everything was crumbling. I kept asking myself if I was crazy, if I'd missed the signs, or if I'd been blind all along. But deep down, I knew. I knew she lied to me, cheated on me, and probably thought she could get away with it forever. I was furious, but more than that, I was devastated. I'd never been so broken in my life. And the worst part, I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fix. And right now, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to try. The days that followed were a blur of confusion, anger, and a kind of numb despair. I kept replaying everything, questioning myself, wondering if I missed signs, if I was just too blindsided by love or comfort to see what was right under my nose. Lisa, of course, was acting like nothing had changed. She'd send her typical snarky texts, acting like I was the one overreacting, like I was the one losing my mind. She'd say things like, "You're overthinking again, Mike. I'm tired of your paranoia." Or, "You're just jealous because I'm prettier than any other woman you've ever met." That last one made my blood boil. I started to realize just how much she'd always been like that, bitchy, manipulative, quick to throw out lies to protect herself. I remember one time a few weeks ago, she got drunk at a party and started yelling at me about how I wasn't exciting enough anymore, how I'd become boring, and that I wasn't enough for her. Little did I know she'd been looking for excitement elsewhere all along. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to come clean or admit she'd been cheating. So I started digging through her stuff, her emails, her social media, her phone. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but I felt like I had no choice anymore. What I found was worse than I expected. There were dozens of messages with Jake, confirming plans for secret meetups, late-night texts, even some explicit exchanges. She'd been lying to my face about everything. One message from Jake was the final straw. It was a picture of her topless with a caption that read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Let's make this special." I'm not proud of this, but I saved it. I needed to see it again to remember what she was doing behind my back. That moment holding her shame in my hands made me feel sick. I confronted her that night face to face. I told her I'd seen everything, every message, every lie, her fake tears when I accused her of overreacting. Her reaction was classic. She started crying, saying how she was sorry, how she never meant for things to go this far, how she loved me but she was weak, and how Jake was just a moment of mistake. She threw herself at my feet, begging me to forgive her, saying it was just sex, just a fling, and I should forget it. That was the moment I realized I couldn't believe her. Not anymore. All her lies, her tears, they were just damage control. I looked at her and felt nothing but disgust. How could she lie so easily, so convincingly? How could she betray me after all we'd been through? The woman I'd trusted, the woman I'd loved, had turned into someone I barely recognized. I didn't scream, I didn't yell, at least not then. I just told her to leave. I needed time to think, to figure out what I was going to do. I watched her pack her bags, her bitchy attitude hiding the panic inside her. As she left, she threw one last snide comment over her shoulder. "You'll miss me when I'm gone, Mike. You're nothing without me." That was the moment I knew I'd crossed a line. She had completely destroyed any illusion about us. I felt broken, furious, and mostly just tired. Tired of the lies, tired of feeling like I'd been played for a fool. I knew I had to decide whether to fight for her, to try to save what was left, or finally let it go. But deep down, I knew the trust was gone. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, she was gone, replaced by someone I didn't even recognize anymore. Now I'm left sitting here trying to make sense of everything, asking myself how I let it get this far. How did I miss all the signs? How did I become just a paycheck, a comfortable life to her? I don't have the answers yet, but I do know one thing: this isn't going to be easy, and I'm not sure I'll ever trust her again, no matter what happens next. The days after she left were the hardest I've ever experienced. The house felt cold and empty, like her absence had drained all the life out of it. I kept walking around, picking up her things, then putting them down again. Every little detail reminded me of her: her perfume on the pillow, her clothes still hanging in the closet, the way she used to laugh at stupid jokes. But now nothing felt real anymore. I was stuck in a whirlwind of betrayal and heartbreak, trying to make sense of how I'd been so blind. I tried to keep myself busy, but nothing could distract me from the gnawing anger. I'd never been a vengeful guy, but with her, I was starting to feel a different side of myself. For days, I kept replaying everything I'd uncovered, trying to find some way to make sense of it all. I realized she'd been lying to me for months. That whole "just a flirtation" excuse, it was bullshit. She'd been sneaking around, planning secret meetings, sending those explicit messages. And she still had the nerve to act innocent when confronted. I started thinking about how to get back at her, how to make her feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. I didn't want to just walk away, not without making her suffer a little. If she wanted to play the game of deceit, then I was going to take it a step further. I spent hours researching, planning, and setting up little ways to make her see she couldn't just ruin my life without consequences. I made sure she knew I wasn't going to just let this slide. One thing I did was to create a fake social media profile, something anonymous, that I used to follow her, Jake, and some of her other friends. I kept tabs on her, watching her post stuff, talking to her friends, all while remaining hidden. It wasn't about stalking her for fun. It was about making sure she knew I was watching, that she couldn't hide forever. I also reached out to Jake, under the guise of someone pretending to be interested, and I started exchanging messages with him. I wanted to get a sense of how deep this went for him, what he really thought about what he was doing. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to contact me, sending those typical "I'm sorry" texts and "please talk to me" messages. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Every time I saw her name pop up, my blood boiled. I felt like she was trying to manipulate her way back into my life, but I wasn't buying it. I was sick of her lies. I just wanted to make her realize she couldn't pin this all on me or brush it aside as if nothing had happened. The real turning point came when I discovered she'd been meeting Jake even after our confrontation. There were messages from her planning to meet him again, saying she needed to see him one last time, or wanted to get closure. That was it. That was the moment I knew I had to do something bigger. I couldn't just sit around and let her continue playing her games. If she was determined to keep lying and sneaking around, then I was going to expose her completely. So I got a hold of some photos Jake had sent her, those explicit ones I'd saved, and I decided I'd use them. Not to hurt her necessarily, but to make her face what she was doing. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some fool who'd just take it lying down. That night, I sent the photos to her email with a simple message: "I know everything. Either you come clean or I will." I knew she'd be furious, maybe even scared. I didn't care. She had pushed me to the brink, and I was finally fighting back. The next day she called me, furious and crying, trying to deny everything again. She screamed about how I was stalking her, about how I was crazy for even doing this. But I knew she couldn't deny it anymore. The pictures were proof, and she knew it. That's when her mask finally cracked. She admitted in a twisted voice that she'd been unhappy for a long time, that she'd made mistakes, and that she'd been trying to get her freedom back with Jake. She said she loved me, but she also said she didn't want to be trapped anymore. That moment, I felt a mixture of relief and profound sadness. I'd finally uncovered the truth, but at what cost? I realized that trusting her again was probably impossible. The betrayal went too deep, and I knew I'd never see her the same way. But I also knew that I wasn't going to be her punching bag anymore. I told her to leave once and for all, and I hung up the phone. Now I'm sitting here, still trying to figure out what's next. I've realized that trust isn't something you can build overnight, especially after something like this. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her or if I even want to. I just know I can't keep living in this limbo. It's better to face the truth, no matter how ugly, than keep pretending everything's okay. That's what I've learned. Sometimes, the worst betrayals teach you the hardest lessons about trust, boundaries, and what you really deserve. The aftermath of everything was a whirlwind. I finally told her to leave for good. When she packed her bags that night, her usual bitchy attitude was replaced with something else. Fear, maybe, or realization that she'd pushed things too far. She threw one last nasty comment about how I'd regret all of this, how I'd miss her, but I just felt numb. That moment, watching her walk out the door, I knew I'd never trust her again. It was like the betrayal had carved a permanent scar in my heart, and no amount of apologies or tears could fix that. I stayed up all night, just staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, she was gone, replaced by someone who lied, cheated, and manipulated me for her own selfish reasons. I kept asking myself how I let it get this bad, how I didn't see the warning signs, how I was so blind to her true nature. But deep down, I knew I had to accept that she'd played me from the start. She wanted her freedom, her thrill, and I was just a guy who gave her a comfortable life. The next few days were filled with a strange mix of relief, anger, and sadness. I blocked her on everything, deleted her number, and even went as far as removing her from my social media. It was hard, every notification, every reminder of what I'd lost. I also reached out to some friends, told them everything. The support was surprisingly helpful, but that didn't stop the pain from lingering. I kept questioning myself. Was I a fool? Did I miss all the signs? Or was she just that good at hiding who she really was? Part of me wanted to exact revenge, make her feel the same heartbreak, the same betrayal I felt. But I knew that wouldn't bring peace. No, what I needed was to focus on myself now. I started going to the gym, more trying to clear my head, and I even got a counselor to help me process everything. I didn't want to carry this bitterness forever. I wanted to learn from it, to grow stronger, even if that meant being alone for a while. There was one thing I couldn't shake, though: the images, the messages, the sense of being played for a fool. That feeling of betrayal is something I don't think I'll ever fully forget. Every time I saw her name or heard her voice in my head, I felt that old anger bubble up again. But I also knew I had to let go of that rage eventually, or it'd consume me. So I made a decision. I'd cut her out of my life completely, not for her, but for myself. I didn't want her to have that power over me anymore. I realized that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can start rebuilding. And that's what I'm doing now, trying to rebuild my sense of self, my trust in the idea that I deserve better than someone who can betray me with such ease. It's far from easy. There are days I feel like giving up. Days I wonder if I'll ever find someone who's honest and real. But I know one thing for sure: this betrayal has shown me what I won't stand for anymore. I'm done being naive. Looking back, I see how blind I was, how much I wanted to believe in the fairy tale of us. But I also see that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this chaos, and I'll come out of it wiser. I learned that love isn't enough to keep a relationship going when trust is broken. It's the foundation, and if it's shattered, everything else crumbles. I guess the lesson here is that sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again. And no matter how painful it is, you have to keep moving forward. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this whole mess has changed me. I used to believe in happily ever after and trust in the idea that love could conquer all, even the really ugly stuff. But what I've learned is that trust is fragile, and sometimes it's better to walk away before it's completely shattered. I never thought I'd be the guy who got cheated on, who found out his wife was lying and sneaking around. It's humbling, almost embarrassing, but it's also a lesson I needed to learn. Lisa's betrayal showed me how deceptive a person can be when they're trying to hide their true self. She was manipulative, bitchy, and willing to lie her way out of anything. That realization was a punch to the gut, but it also set me free in a way. I don't have to live in that illusion anymore. I don't have to wonder if she's telling the truth or if she's sneaking behind my back. The pain of discovery was terrible, but it cleared my vision. I see things now I wouldn't have seen before. Moving forward, I know I'll be cautious, maybe even guarded. I won't rush into another relationship without knowing what's real. I'll take my time, rebuild my trust in myself first, and learn to be okay alone. Because in the end, I've come to understand that the most important relationship I have is the one I have with myself. I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who genuinely cares, not someone who's just pretending for their own selfish reasons. If there's one thing I want to leave here, it's this. Do. Ignore the warning signs. Don't convince yourself it's just a phase or that she'll change. Because if someone is willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate you, they're not worth the pain. Protect yourself. Be honest with yourself about what you can and can't accept. Love is built on trust, and if that trust is broken, you need to be brave enough to walk away, even if it hurts like hell. Today, I'm choosing to focus on healing, on learning to trust again, and on understanding that sometimes, the greatest act of self-love is walking away from someone who doesn't value you. Betrayal cuts deep, it changes you, but it also teaches you what you're truly worth. I may be broken right now, but I'm also stronger for it. And someday I believe I'll find happiness again, without lies, without betrayal, and with someone who truly respects me.